Welcome to the Deep Dive. Now, this is a custom deep dive we've put together specifically for you, the Australian business owner or C-level executive listening in, especially those who follow the C9 podcast and our business page. I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera. Great to be here.
And today, we are really going to tear through a stack of critical sources.
Yeah, our mission today is pretty clear, I think. It's a deep exploration, really drilling down into how DevOps, platform engineering, and importantly, automation can solve those specific, often quite high-cost problems we see facing Sydney and Brisbane businesses right now.
Right.
We're looking for the clearest path, the most predictable way to scale up, actually reduce those long-term costs, and seriously accelerate software delivery.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit, because the core conflict, the real tension we're seeing across all these sources, it seems to be growth getting blocked. Not necessarily by the market, but by, well, inefficient internal processes.
Exactly. And surprising hidden costs, the kind that tech leaders often inherit.
Yeah, so we want to move you, the listener, from that really frustrating why on earth are we so slow moment
We hear that a lot.
to a place where you have a predictable, scalable framework for getting things done.
And look, that move, it's not just nice to have, it's essential. The sources are really clear on this inefficiency. It's not just annoying, it actively erodes your margins. And it really undermines confidence when it comes to investing more in technology.
So the sources, they really map out the struggles executives are facing. We're talking perpetually slow release cycles, maintenance costs just ballooning.
Out of control sometimes.
Yeah, and finding it really tough to hang on to top engineering talent, the ones who want modern, automated environment.
Yeah.
So what are the specific symptoms, like the really recognizable signs of this underlying pain that execs should look for?
It's interesting, actually, because the problems described are highly specific, yet quite universal across industries. We're seeing 4 major bottlenecks pop up again and again.
Okay, 4 key things. What's number 1?
First up, manual toil. Think manual build, manual deployments, manual QA testing. It just creates this development pipeline that gets completely choked.
Right.
Product launches get blocked because every single step needs human hands-on, repeating the same tasks over and over.
Okay, manual toil. That sounds exhausting, frankly. What's second?
Second is the risk of siloed knowledge. This is a big one. Where one key person, maybe a senior dev, maybe even a critical vendor contact, they hold all the crucial knowledge about a system. If they leave or are unavailable, it creates this huge risk, high vendor risk, high staff risk.
Yeah, I read one source called it the key person lottery, like hoping your architect answers their phone on holiday.
Exactly. And it sounds like a joke, but it's definitely not funny when it actually causes a system outage because no one else knows how it works.
That's actually terrifying for business continuity. What about quality? Does that suffer too?
Well, that leads straight into the third point. Low-quality prototypes. This often happens when businesses try to go the perceived low-cost route.
You mean like freelancers or maybe cheap app builders?
Precisely. They might deliver something that looks like a working prototype, but it's missing the critical foundations. Proper security hardening, decent test coverage, clear documentation.
Ah, the hidden stuff.
Yeah, and that technical debt, it's basically guaranteed to cause expensive problems like outages down the track.
Okay, so that's 3. Manual toil, silo risk, low-quality prototypes. What's the 4th?
Fourth is scope erosion. This is really about failing to do a proper discovery phase up front. You end up with unclear scope, maybe wildly optimistic deadlines.
Because you haven't dug into the details.
Exactly. And then, inevitably, you get hit with expensive change orders and budget blowouts later on. It poisons the well.
So, okay, if you recognize those symptoms in your own business, the manual work, the knowledge silos, maybe those prototypes that felt a bit too cheap or projects where the scope kept changing, you have to realize you might be setting yourself up for failure.
You really are. Rushed projects, born from that manual toil or those flimsy prototypes, they lead directly to costly outages, this accumulating hidden technical debt, and sometimes really painful vendor lock-in.
Right.
And yeah, look, executives need predictable outcomes. They need to see quantifiable ROI from their tech investments. These problems, the toil, the silos, the poor quality, the scope creep, they just completely erode confidence.
And they stop technology being the growth engine it really should be.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the cost of those 4 bottlenecks, the silo risk, the manual toil, poor quality builds, scope erosion, it just cripples predictability. So when the sources start talking about solutions, things like DevOps, platform engineering, automation, We need to get concrete. What are the measurable business returns? What's the actual ROI on this kind of investment?
Yeah, that's the crucial question for the C-suite, isn't it? It's all about the outcomes. We're not just talking tech philosophy here. We're talking tangible results.
No.
Shorter release windows, significantly lower mean time to recovery, or MTTR.
Which basically means fixing things faster when they break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When something inevitably goes wrong, you fix it much, much faster. Also, fewer critical incidents happening in the first place. And all this leads directly to a reduced cost per feature delivered. You get more bang for your buck.
Okay, so how does it deliver that? What are the specific drivers?
Well, the specific drivers enabling this are pretty powerful. First, speed. That comes from automated CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration, continuous deployment that compress cycle times dramatically, faster feature shipping.
Right.
Then there's quality and security. This comes through things like test automation, better observability into your systems, and what the sources call shift-left security.
Okay, hold on. Shift-left security. Let's clarify that for listeners who aren't deep in the tech weeds. That means checking security much earlier in the development process, right? Not just at the end.
That's exactly it. And shifting security left like that, it's really non-negotiable these days for mitigating business risk effectively.
Why is it so critical from a governance perspective?
Well, it's a huge governance issue. Shift left means security stops being this final checklist item that holds up your launch day.
The bottleneck right at the end.
Yeah. Instead, it gets integrated right from day one into the architecture discussions, into the coding phase itself. And this drastically reduces defects and the cost of fixing them later.
Because finding a flaw late is way more expensive.
Exponentially more expensive than fixing it early. It's really the definition of proactive risk management.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. How exactly do these practices, these concepts, solve those manual bottlenecks we talked about earlier? What does this automation actually look like inside, say, an Australian SME or enterprise?
Well, they typically implement 3 core architectural concepts. First, you've got developer self-service platforms.
Okay.
These basically standardize the whole development environment, the tools, the configurations needed. And this standardization cuts onboarding time for a new engineer, or just setting up a new project, from potentially weeks of repetitive grunt work.
Right, getting their laptop set up, getting access.
All that stuff, down to just hours or maybe days. It's a huge efficiency game.
Okay, self-service platforms. What's next?
Second is infrastructure as code, often shortened to IAC. This is absolutely key. IAC means all your cloud environments, development, staging, production, are defined and managed using code, just like your application software.
So they're versioned, documented?
Exactly. Reproducible, versioned, documented. This is critical for reducing what's called environmental drift.
Ah, that nightmare scenario where it works perfectly in staging.
But breaks in production because someone manually tweaked a setting somewhere and forgot to tell anyone or document it. IAC stops that.
Okay, but hang on. These investments, they sound significant. New tools, new ways of working. How do companies ensure that the IAC documentation, the self-service platforms, actually stay current? Doesn't that just create a new kind of manual toil down the line? That sounds like a serious governance concern for an executive.
That's a really important point, and that's where platform engineering as a discipline comes in. It essentially treats the internal platform itself as a product. So you have dedicated engineers whose job it is to maintain those IAC files, keep the self-service templates updated, validate the standardized environments. It ensures the platform evolves and stays reliable.
Got it. So it needs dedicated focus. And the third concept?
And third, crucially, is automated releases. Those CI/CD pipelines we mentioned, they automate the whole build, test, and deploy sequence.
Making releases routine.
Exactly. Routine, auditable, and this is vital, immediately reversible if something does go wrong post-release. You can roll back quickly and safely.
And connecting this back to results, the sources you looked at, they had some real-world examples, local ones.
They did, yeah. Some powerful local examples. There was a Sydney-based SaaS company. They cut their deployment time from 2 full days down to under 1 hour just by implementing an automated CI/CD pipeline.
2 days to under an hour. Wow.
Huge difference. And similar story in Brisbane, a logistics platform. They achieved 30% faster onboarding for their partners simply by implementing those standardized self-service environments we talked about.
30% faster onboarding? That's not just efficiency, that's faster revenue, faster market penetration.
Directly impacts the bottom line. Better cash flow. It's game-changing stuff.
Okay, something the research really seems to hammer home again and again is this idea of discovery. That it's not optional. It's like the required insurance policy for your tech budget.
Hmm.
So why is doing a structured discovery workshop the absolute first risk management step an executive should take before spending a single dollar on actual development?
Look, it's entirely about minimizing your risk exposure and maximizing predictability. That's what discovery does. It takes all those terrifying unknowns, the messy legacy data you suspect is lurking, the undocumented requirements of an old
Room
system.
skeletons in the closet.
Pretty much. It turns them into defined, manageable tasks with clear owners and crucially realistic timelines. And that is what enables sensible staged funding and cost estimates you can actually trust.
Because without it, the cost estimates are just guesswork, right? They're fatally flawed.
Completely.
Yeah.
That breeds mistrust down the line. I mean, consider the example the sources give. An indicative quote, maybe $18,000 for what seems like a straightforward CRM integration.
Sounds reasonable on the surface.
Right. But then you do a proper 2-week discovery workshop, and suddenly you uncover messy legacy data that needs migrating, or previously unknown API rate limits you have to work around, or specific security hardening requirements that were completely missed in that initial surface-level quote.
And the cost jumps.
Easily. That $18,000 quote can suddenly become $30,000 or more.
And that $12,000 difference, or whatever it is, it instantly derails a budget. And it destroys executive confidence in the tech team or the vendor.
Absolutely. Whereas discovery allows an executive to actually prioritize.
Yeah.
You get a structured, staged roadmap. Often you could start with some phase 1 quick wins, maybe a 4 to 8 week project, deliver some early ROI, prove the approach works.
Build confidence.
Exactly. Before you commit the bigger budget for the full platform build out.
Okay, so discovery is crucial for managing known unknowns. But this brings us to another risk the sources warn about. What happens when an executive maybe tries to bypass all this structure, perhaps opts for the lowest perceived cost by relying on what the sources called AI cowboys?
Or vibes coding, yeah.
Vibes coding, I like that. It perfectly captures that sort of short-term appeal, doesn't it? These approaches relying heavily on quick code generation tools, maybe just wiring components together loosely, or using very low-cost, informal solo developers, they promise speed, but they tend to skip that disciplined architecture piece.
They absolutely do. And that attractive short-term speed, it comes with massive long-term, often hidden costs. There are 3 big ones.
Okay, what are they?
Firstly, hidden debt. Code that's just generated or thrown together without proper architectural thought. It almost always lacks necessary tests, decent documentation, and a cohesive structure. It becomes fragile, brittle, and incredibly expensive to change or build upon later.
Right. So future features cost way more. What's the second cost?
Second, significant security gaps. Automated generators or developers focus purely on speed. They often prioritize getting something working over making it secure. They miss the hardened security controls that mature professional practices demand. You're building on sand, security-wise.
Okay, hidden debt, security gaps, and the third.
And, maybe most critically, the risk of knowledge loss. If the AI Cowboy builder disappears, or the specific tool used to generate the code becomes obsolete or unsupported,
You're stuck.
you're completely stuck. The product becomes incredibly costly, maybe even impossible to operate or extend.
Yeah.
You've basically swapped a low upfront cost for an extremely high-risk form of vendor lock-in. Lock-in by incompetence, essentially.
Okay, so if avoiding the high-risk AI cowboy or the vibes coding approach is the goal, what does the source material suggest is the ideal model? What does a production-worthy system with guaranteed long-term accountability look like when you partner with an external development company?
The sources really emphasize that for Australian enterprises and SMEs to succeed here, the partnership needs to be built on 3 core strategic principles. These are designed specifically to mitigate that vendor risk and ensure you actually get quality.
Okay, 3 principles. What's the first one?
The first principle is what we could call the hybrid accountability model. This means you absolutely must secure senior inshore people, architects, product leads, key governance roles right here in Sydney or Brisbane.
Local leadership.
Exactly. Local leadership ensures clear accountability, easy communication, direct oversight. And then that local leadership can be supported by cost-efficient, dedicated offshore engineering capacity to provide scale.
Ah, so you get the best of both worlds.
That's the idea. You optimize the cost using offshore talent, but you don't sacrifice that crucial local oversight, quality control, and strategic direction.
And that directly tackles the silo risk we talked about earlier, right? Keeping the core governance local.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the second principle, embedded knowledge transfer. This is non-negotiable. The partnership must integrate documentation, training, and practices like pair programming into every single engagement.
Not just an afterthought at the end.
No, built in from day one. The explicit goal should always be for your internal teams, your people, to be fully capable of operating and extending the system independently once the main project phase is complete or transitions.
So you eliminate that debilitating knowledge loss risk if the vendor relationship changes.
Precisely. It future-proofs your investment. And the third principle follows logically, providing integrated teams, not just individual developers on loan.
What's the distinction there?
Well, you should partner with a provider who gives you full product teams, people with DevOps expertise, dedicated QA engineers, solution architects, working together as a unit. This drastically reduces the single point of failure risk you get with individuals.
The bus factor.
Exactly. It guarantees continuity if someone leads the vendor's team, and it ensures the team actually has the breadth of skills needed to implement those high-quality practices we've been discussing, like proper IEC and automated releases. You need the whole skill set.
Yeah, I see the engagement flexibility is important too. The sources mentioned that while, monthly rolling contracts offer pure elasticity, they actually stress the stability you get from minimum lock-in contracts, typically around 3 to 6 months.
Yes, that's right. That slightly longer, but still relatively short, commitment period, 3 to 6 months, it provides the necessary stability for the partner team to really ramp up effectively and gain deep domain knowledge about your specific business.
Which takes time.
It does. And that deeper learning time significantly improves the team's productivity over the engagement. And crucially, it improves the predictability of future deliverables. You get better results when the team truly understands your context. Hashtag outro.
So wrapping this all up, what does it really mean for you, the listener? Well, the path to predictable delivery, to faster growth, and dramatically reduced risk for your Sydney or Brisbane-based business, it really runs through that structured discovery up front, and then a disciplined strategic application of these modern practices, platform engineering, DevOps, automation.
Absolutely. And the key takeaway is avoid that tempting short-term cost appeal of, let's call them speculative low-cost solutions, like the AI Cowboys or Vibes coding.
They're fool's gold.
Pretty much. Instead, invest in a discovery-first staged approach. Choose a strategic partner who operates on that hybrid model, guarantees knowledge transfer, and provides local accountability. That is genuinely how you future-proof your tech stack and guarantee a real ROI.
So for Australian business owners and C-level executives listening today, if you're looking for a partner who can actually deliver these sustainable, measurable results and implement these production-worthy practices, well, we encourage you to take that critical first step. Book a discovery call. I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera from the C9 Podcast Show.
Remember, that single-focused discovery call, it really is the protective measure. It shields your budget from those nasty surprises.
And it ensures that the first phase of delivery actually drives real, quantifiable ROI for your business, not just more hidden debt to deal with later.
To take that first step, just visit our website at www.c9.com.au. C9 is Australia's leading custom software apps, integration, and database developer company.
And please, if this deep dive gave you some value, some clarity today, we'd really appreciate it if you click that follow button. Maybe share this deep dive with other executives or business owners who you think could benefit from this knowledge.
Thanks for tuning in.